Alright, Shalom. This is Sahara 1 by Nyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh by Hashem Harakah Kodash Ma'amaf. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. And Shalom to you, Akim, and Akwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. This lesson is it's going to be a quick lesson, Yahweh Ratazah, which is a response or an answer to a question that one of the brothers in the camp had, dealing with a statement I made at camp about the three sects, S-E-C-T, sects, that were around during the time that when we were Hellenized, during the times of 168 BC, well, really prior to that, to where you had three different groups on the scene. Let me get this real quick. Sects. Let me get the etymology of sects. All right, this is the word. S-E-C-T. And it says a faction or a party. All right, followers. All right. So even today, you got different followers in different camps. Now, you had different groups of people during that time. Just like during the time of Yahushua, you had different followers and different groups and different parties, such as the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, and the Zealots. All right. Then you had also the Greeks, which were like Hellenized Israelites. So now if you rewind that and go back to the time where the Pharisees and the Sadducees were actually established during the time of 168 BC, after the rededicating of the temple in 164, you have the birth of these Sadducees and the Pharisees, right? That mindset. So now let's get into it. So the day of those different sects, S-E-C-T, S, different parties, different groups. During that time of the Greeks, you had three. Right? You had one that rose up because of their zeal for the temple, which was called during the time of Hanukkah, which means the rededication of our temple. All right, and also the Feast of Lights. Now, during that time, you had three. You had one called the Hellenists, which was our people that followed after the Greek customs and pagan customs. They became Hellenized, Hellenistas, right? Then you had the Hasmoneans, which were the Maccabees and people like Mattathias that were of priestly line, all right? During that time, they would deal with inheritance of a bloodline. So if you was a priest, that you would sit on the throne or the priesthood. But during that time, when we were Hellenized, that was the first time we were ever that priesthood was taken away for money and filthy lucre. All right, with Jason and Simon that tried to steal the office of the priesthood. So, all right, for money. But then you had another one called the Hasidim. Hasidim. H-A. I'm going to write it on this. Right here. I'm going to put it right here in post-production. All right. Hasidim. H-A-S-S-I-D or Hassidim, or Assidians, Assideans. And these were a group of people that were also called saints, all right, the Assidians or the Hasidim. And these were Israelite jakes that wanted nothing to do with the political party of Israelites that was selling out to the Greeks, and Antiochus Epiphanes and all them, and Seleucid the Fourth. And then you had the Hasidim that didn't want to deal with the priesthood because they were selling out. So they just were spiritual, all right? They were known as just spiritual, also zealots, warriors. Our people were warriors. Scriptures call them lion-like men. We were like lions. All right. So, that, I kind of gave a briefing on what the Hasidim is, but I want to show you according to scriptures, of course, and by definition. All right. So you have in the background what you're looking at is the Judean hills. This is it's called the desert or the wilderness. And anytime somebody wanted to get away from everybody, like on some Gandhi shit, like go just meditate and pray in the truth, or to be away from any confusion, they would go out to the wilderness. Or if you wanted to flee from any corruption, you go to the wilderness. So that's what happened with Mattathias. He ran out into the wilderness, and he called the same place John the Baptist went, same place Yahushua went when he was tempted of the devil. So Mattathias ran out into these mountains, and he said, anybody that want to fight against these heathens, these Edomites, these pagan Greeks, and against the Hellenized Jews, Israelites, come follow him out into the wilderness. And where they went to, the ones that responded to that call was known as the Hasidians, all right, and also those of Egypt, Israelites that were in Egypt, all right. So now let's get with the word Hasidim, all right, Assidians were known as mighty men, all right, and they were just spiritual zealots, man, that want nothing to do. Just like today, we don't want nothing to do with any debates. So, but then you had a line of the priesthood, which was corrupted by people like Jason and Simon that was selling out to those heathens just to get the office of the priesthood. And when they got in that office, they were killing and destroying people. They were corrupt. All right, Jason and Simon. So, let's get into it. So it says you have the Hasidim, which also means pious ones or the saints or a godly person. That was the Hasidim. But then you had the Hellenists, which was jakes that were Hellenized. All right, I'm gonna do a lesson on that too. Then you had the other one, which is the Hasmoneans, all right, which were Mattathias and the Zealot priests that fought against those fake Jews and won in the spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, and ultimately brought about the rededication of the temple. All right. So let's get into some scripture to show these points. Go right here real quick. Let's go to Psalms. If you want to go there too, you can. Psalms 149 and 1. All right, because this is one of the main scriptures where this word Hasidim is used, or Hasayadim is used in reference to the same word Hasayad, all right? But it's known as the saints. This is Psalms 149 and 1. Praise ye Yahweh, sing unto Yahweh a new song, and his praise in the congregation of the saints. And that new song is this refreshed song that we're singing today, that only the elect can learn. All right, the spirit of truth. So it says, sing a new song and his praise in the congregation of his saints. And who are the saints today? The elect of Israel. So that word saints, you have a couple words for the word saint. But this one right here in Psalms 149 is H2623, right? 82623. H meaning Hebrew, 2623. And it means a pious one or a saint. And how you say it is Hasayad. All right, Hasayad. I don't know if I can get it on there. All right, Hasayad. This phone is trash. You got it a little bit. All right, so Hasayad. And it means saints. So these were the Hasidim, of whom you get a lot of the Essenes and also the Pharisees, you know, and some of the Sadducees. Yahweh Ratazah, I want to go into the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the difference between the two, and the Sanhedrin, Yahweh Ratazah. So that's where you get the root of the word Hasidim or Assideans. Now let's see them in scripture in 1 Maccabees chapter 2 verse 42. This is when they were first spoken of. All right, 1 Maccabees chapter 2 verse 42. And it says here, let me get my Bible. Well, actually, I want to start from 1 just to give you a layout of what was happening at that time, and then go into how the Hasidim joined into the battle to help out Mattathias to fight against the Edomite Greeks and 2/3 of or the wicked of our people that were selling out, becoming Hellenized, becoming Greeks. Even to this day. 1 Maccabees 1. And let's start from like, it's gonna be a quick read, just get to the point. Okay, yeah, I'll start from there. All right, it says here, let's start from 37, 36. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. And this was Antiochus and his army that he established and set up garrisons all throughout Israel and within Jerusalem around the temple. And it was slaughtering us every time we would leave, or basically besieged our city. And so much that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made in a habitation of strangers. So even today it's a habitation of strangers, man. Them fake Jews over there is, you know, the Khazars, you know, Esau. Same bloodline as Antiochus Epiphanes, the wicked. And became strange. See, the place became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her, man. And we got kicked out of there. All right, the true children of our mother Jerusalem. All right, our birthplace. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness, man. Even today, it's laid waste like a wilderness. All right. Her feast were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt, man. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. That's that one world order they've been trying to get. All right, saying that everybody got to follow up under one rule, meaning everybody got to be Greeks. Everybody got to be pagans and worship their idols. It's crazy, right? And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed, all these heathen nations agreed, according to the commandment of the king. But it was like, oh, what about these Israelites? All the heathen nations agreed, and the Egyptians or whoever, they all agreed with these Edomites to be Hellenized. It says here, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols, because they were the priests and they started sacrificing unto the idols. Right, the priesthood was corrupted and profaned the Sabbath, for the king had sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And he forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves, chapels of idols, sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, meaning profanity, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances, man. See, that's the end goal, for us to be forgotten. And the laws that we were given, this was our wisdom in the sight of the nations. This was our righteousness. But now the Lord gave us righteousness that they can't take away through Yahweh Shai. He is our righteousness. All right? So that's how we forgot our way. That's why you got all these jakes up in these churches, man. In these fraternities and being Masons and shit. Masonic. Celebrating Halloween and all that. And Christmas. Following at the customs of these Greeks and Romans, Edomites. All right? So that's when it started. But then you had, let's go to 53 or 52. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land. See, this is what made people like the Hasidim or Mattathias and Judas Maccabees, made them stand up, you know. All right, so verse 54, no, 53. And drove the Israelites into secret places, man. So we fled into the wilderness, all right? Into secret places, was hiding away from these Edomites. Even wheresoever they could flee for succor, meaning safety. Now the 15th year of the month Caslu is a Persian term, or I think it's Greek or Persian, right? For around the month of November, December, basically in the winter. That's when we would keep the Feast of Lights, or the Hanukkah, all right? Which means the feast of their dedication. It says, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar. Let's get that real quick. I don't know if you can see it, but if you take 312 BC, and that was the time of the, what would they call, the Diadochi, all right, the Diadochi, which means the successors, the continuers of that paganism from the time of Alexander the Great, all right, and then all the way up until, I think he died in 323 or so. And then you had his son that was killed, that was supposed to rule, and then you had the successors, I forgot, it was Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucid, and Ptolemy. All right, those four became the successors, and through the Seleucid, that's how you get Antiochus. All right, the Seleucid dynasty, the Seleucid Empire, and that's what we fought against. All right, their paganism. So, right here where it says, now in the 15th day, so we got to count from the new moon, around the end of the year, or probably this month, of the month Caslu, around November and December, in the 145th year, and to calculate that, you wouldn't say 143 or 145 or nothing like that. BC, no, that's later. This happened 167 BC. See that? Because Antiochus Epiphanes, he came and besieged Israel, Jerusalem, in 169, 168. And then the next following year, that's when you get Mattathias that stood up, 167. All right? So now in the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, man. And the abomination of desolation is basically Esau, spoken of dealing with Titus and Vespasian. And each time they set up idols, and that idol was going back to Jupiter, goes to Zeus, and they sacrifice the damn black pigs and shit. Same thing they do today. And they builded idols, altars throughout the city of Judah on every side, man. So, all right, so that's what had our people vexed and caused them to stand up. And then 167 BC, that's when you go to 1 Maccabees 2 and 42 to get the understanding. But I'm going to go to 27 and read up to 42, all right? This is 1 Maccabees 1 and 27. All right, I'll give you a second to go there. 1 Maccabees 1, 27. All right. This is 1 Maccabees 1 and 27. And Mattathias, all right, Mattathias was a Hasmonean. See, he told you it was 3 sects, 3 parties, 3 followers, groups of followers at that time. It was that the Hellenista, which was the Greeks, the Israelites that sold out. Another word for Greek, became Greeks, following at the customs and religions and idols of the Greeks and the laws. And then you had the Hasmoneans, which was the bloodline from a forefather named Hasmon, of whom you get Mattathias, and of whom you get Judas, who was also nicknamed Maccabees. That wasn't his last name, that was his nickname, meaning he was called the Hammer. And his brother Simon Thassi, who became the first high priest to rule of their bloodline. All right. So I think that was around 134 BC. All right, right before or 140 Salakia, right before John Hyrcanus. All right, so he ruled, I think, from 140 something all the way up until 134. Then you get John Hyrcanus. That was Simon Thassi. He was a Judite high priest from the bloodline of the Hasmoneans that sat on the throne as a high priest. I mean, sat in a position as a high priest um, after the revolt of Mattathias and Judas Maccabees. So you had those three: the Hasmoneans, the Hellenistas, and the Hasidim, which were the Assideans. It says, and Mattathias, verse 27, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law, right? So who's willing to fight and is compassionate for the law? And that's where you get the term zealot from, all right? The zealots, just like Simon the Zealot, that rose up during the time of the Roman Empire, also called Simon the Canaanite. He was one of the 12. Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains, and we're looking at those mountains, those ranges of mountains that our people would flee into, and nobody could find you there. Even King David fled into those wildernesses. All right, just like us, we're in the spiritual wilderness today. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. See, a lot of people followed them out there, just like with John the Essene. The Lord said, prepare a way in the wilderness. John went out there, and the Lord set up a spiritual gathering of people that wanted to be under the spirit of repentance and baptism and preparing the way for Yahushua to show up. All right, so Mattathias was kind of doing that in a sense of war, saying anybody that wanted to follow and that was zealous of the law, that wanted to get away from all the heathens and prepare the battle, follow him out into the wilderness. All right, so he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. And that's when you get people like the Hasidim, which Hasayadim, which is plural of the word Hasayad, which means the saints, or just the spiritual godly people that were warriors and that were willing to fight for what they believed in, that wanted nothing to do with the religious customs and the, like the political part of their belief. They didn't want nothing to do with the government and all that. People that were getting tangled up with them Greeks. All right, and they always had issues with the priesthood. All right, they were called the Hasidians. So it says both they and their children, and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. So they all went to the mountains. Now when it was told the king's servants, and the king talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, who was an Edomite, and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, talking about the host that those Greeks had established in the city of David, man, right? To ransack and to pillage and to desecrate our temple. That certain men who had broken the king's commandment were going down into secret places into the wilderness. They were like, hey, it's a bunch of Jakes, the Israelites that ran out to the wilderness, man. That's what they were telling Antiochus. And they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day, man. They were fighting us on our Sabbath. They had no respect to that. And they besieged us. All right, to besiege means to set up an attack from every side and wait. and cut off supplies and things like that. Nothing goes in, anything comes out, dies. That's to besiege a city or a kingdom. So, and they said unto them, let that which you have done hitherto suffice. Come forth. It's like, hey, y'all ran away far enough. You already disrespected the Greek pagan empire. We're gonna let you pass if you just come on out now. Yeah, we heard that before. Come on out now here, boy. You come on out. You come out, still get shot up. See, these Edomites didn't change. It says, let that which you have done already suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king Antiochus, and you shall live. They was lying, because they're gonna ask him to eat pork. If they didn't eat the pork, they would, the Lord said, don't trust them, man. So then they gave them the battle with all speed, man. The Jews fought. We fought. Gave them the battle with all speed. Just responded like lions. All right. Scripture said we had said lion-like men. All right. I'm gonna get that. Here you go. This is First Maccabees 3:67. 3:1. Then his son, talking about Judas. I'm gonna skip back over to the point. Then his son Judas, Mattathias' son Judas, called Maccabees, rose up in his stead right after he died, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father Mattathias, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people. So this happened around 166 BC, the year after, or the year Mattathias died. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate of a giant as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. Talking about Judas Maccabees, that we call him the hammer. And in his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp, roaring for his prey. All right, whelp means to cry out, roaring. For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burned up those that vexed his people. Wherefore the wicked, to my Esau, shrunk for fear, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. Same thing gonna happen again with Yahushua when he returns. The wicked gonna shrink, they gonna get small. It was like somebody got the hell out of it, they got small. They gonna shrink. So let's get back over to the point. So we were like lions, man. In that faith. The spirit of faith, man. Let's get back over to First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 35. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 35. We're gonna finish there to get to the point. All right. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they laid hid, but said, let us die in all our innocency. So they ain't even try to set up a plan. Jake, we was like, yo, this is it. Let's go straight at them. They ain't set up no plan. They ain't throw no stones, wasn't trying to preserve their life. Sent a messenger, they just went straight at them. Yeah, our people wild. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that you put us to death wrongly. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath. They didn't want to have to fight on the Sabbath, but our people just did it. And they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle, to the number of 1,000 people. So all right. So I think they killed a lot of Jakes. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore, man. See, they were tight, like, damn, they killed our people, thousands of our, and the men, women, and children, just slaughtered them. And these were just average people, man, just, citizens of Jerusalem that believed, that didn't want to follow after the customs of Esau. And they just went in there and slaughtered them and killed them, man. And it says, so Mattathias was upset about that. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. Saying if we just, see, that a good example is you don't want to act off impulse. You don't want to be carnal. You got to think before you act. That's what they're saying right here. If we all do that, just act off impulse and emotion, then they erase us out of here, and violence. So it says here, at that time, therefore they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. All right, so they're gonna something called guerrilla warfare. They're gonna split up and fight smartly. Now here go the point. Then came there unto him a company of Assideans. When they showed up, man, the cavalry, a bunch of warriors, man, jakes that were known as just spiritual men that just, wanted to join the battle and fight for their people. And they joined up with the Hasmoneans, but they were all the same tribes. All right. The Hasmoneans was kind of tied into the priesthood. Well, a lot of the priesthood became corrupt, so the Hasmonean dynasty stood up, starting with Mattathias, who was a priest. And it says here, then came there unto him a company of Assideans. And that word Assidian goes into Hasidim. Same word, Assidians, Hasidim. Some even say Hasidim is another word, or Assidian is another word for Essenes. Right? And then you get the Pharisees from groups of these men too as well. Then came there unto him a company of Assideans, who were mighty men of Israel. So you want to know who the Assideans, the Hasidim were? They were called mighty men of Israel. Even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Mighty men of Israel, man, the strong as jakes. And they were zealous and they loved the law. They were devout Jews, devout Israelites. Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them and were stayed unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So still you had a lot of jakes that were selling out, becoming what? Hellenized. That's why you had what? 3 parties or groups of people. The Hellenistas, the jakes that were selling out, becoming wicked pagans. And then you had the Hasmonean dynasty, which became a dynasty after Judas Maccabees and Simon Thassi started ruling. And then you had the Hasidim, which were known as also the Hasidians, right? The Assideans. So, verse 45, then Mattathias and his friends, that's like saying Spider-Man and friends, people like heroes, man. Or they were the true heroes. Then Mattathias and his friends went around about and pulled down the altars, man. All right. So I'm getting into the rest of it dealing with Hanukkah because Hanukkah is approaching, and I'm sure we're gonna be diving into these chapters. So let's get to the point. Let's go over to First Maccabees 7:13. Let me get there real quick. All right, so this is let's read from First Maccabees 7:1. In the 151st year, all right, when it counts like that, it's saying 151. All right, 151st year, so it'd be 151. So is it talking about 151 BC? No, it's saying it's calculating from the last moment we knew when they started the Greek Empire, which was in Syria, called 312 BC. So they was using that as a marker point, man. 312 BC, and you subtract 151, you get 161 BC, and that's when this was happening. All right, this chapter 7. I figure I'm gonna write that there. First Maccabees chapter 7 would be around 162, 161 BC. All right. So it says Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, Seleucus the fourth, the father of Antiochus. So Demetrius was Antiochus' brother. He departed from Rome and came up with a few men into the city of the seacoast and reigned there. That was around 162, 161. So 162. And as he entered into the palace of his ancestors, so it was that his forces had taken Antiochus and Lysias to bring them unto him. Wherefore, when he knew it, he said, let me not see their faces. So his host slew them. Now when Demetrius was set upon the throne of his kingdom, and he was set upon his throne in 161 BC, there came unto him all wicked and ungodly men of Israel, having alchemists who was desirous to be high priest for their captain, man. So a bunch of sellout jakes, man, once again going unto him saying, hey, let me rule over our people. Just like today. And they accused the people to the king, man, lying on it. Looks like Shaq and Charles Barkley and them. And they accused the people to the king, saying, Judah and his brethren have slain all thy friends and driven us out of our land, our own land. Now therefore send some man whom thou trustest, they're talking to Esau, and let him go and see what havoc he have made amongst us and in the king's land, and let him punish them with all them that aid them. All right, so they were trying to get, if I'm not mistaken, I think Judas Maccabee was still alive. Right, they were trying to get Judas killed. All right, I think he died around 160 BC. All right, after this. So, and I'm gonna get to the point. Then, verse 8, then the king chose Bacchides, a friend of the king, who ruled beyond the flood, beyond the river of flood, and was a great man in the kingdom and faithful to the king. And him he sent with that wicked alchemist, Jake, whom he made high priest and commanded, so he was a puppet, and commanded that he should take vengeance of the children of Israel. So they departed and came with a great power into the land of Judea, where they sent messengers to Judas and his brethren with peaceful words deceitfully. So they tried to deceive him. That's that Judas, the wicked Judas spirit. This guy, alchemist, joined up with some Edomites and lied to him. Told on Judas Maccabees. And then, same thing they did to Yahushua, betrayed him. Sent them letters saying, brother, coming to see you. That's why you can't trust every brother. Every brother is not a brother. All right. You got to use discernment. I got a point. But they gave no heed to their words, man. They were smart. Judas Maccabee was smart. For they saw that they were come with a great power. They already saw him afar off. Then did there assemble unto Alchemists and Bacchais a company of scribes to require justice. Now the Assideans, here we go, the Hasidim, were the first among the children of Israel that sought peace of them, man. So they wanted peace. For said they, one that is a priest of the seed of Aaron is come with this army, and he will do us no wrong. So they fell for it. Judas Maccabee was like, I ain't falling for it. But the Assideans, the Hasidim, they fell for it. You know, they was like, hey man, you got to be of the bloodline of Aaron, Levite. And that's what Alchemist was. So, like, Sakari. So, for said they, all right. So, you know, so that show you how the Hasidim kind of was confused in that battle. You know, playing both sides a little bit. So, you can finish reading that chapter, man, to get the understanding on it. But let's get one more verse where the Hasidim is mentioned. Let's go to 2 Maccabees, the book of Jason, of 2 Maccabees, written by Jason, Jake Sellout. All right, written by Jason of Cyrene. So you get 2 Maccabees 14:6, which is basically a recount, a more defined account of what happened during the time of from 175 during the Seleucid rule, and then going into Antiochus Epiphanes, and how Jake was selling out and became Hellenized, and the priesthood was corrupted for filthy lucre and greed and power, right? Joining into the Greeks. So let's get this real fast. 2 Maccabees 14:6. Dealing with the Hasidim, that's the focus. Who were they? Hasidim, or the Assidians. 14:6. This is 2 Maccabees 14, chapter 14, verse 6, all right? And the setting for this is around 161 BC again. It's just in a different chapter. And after 3 years was Judas Maccabees informed that Demetrius, the son of Seleucid, he was an Edomite, having, I think it was Demetrius the second, or Demetrius Soter, Soter, and Demetrius, the son of Seleucid, which was a brother of Antiochus, having entered by the haven of Tripolis with a great power and navy, had taken the country and killed Antiochus and Lysias, his protector. It goes hand in hand with the chapter we were just reading. All right. Now, one alchemist, see, Jake, Levite, who had been high priest and had defiled himself willfully in the times of their mingling with the Gentiles, man, the Edomite Gentiles, seeing that by no means he could save himself, nor have any more access to the holy altar, right? This guy couldn't fight for himself, alchemist. He had to go get help from Esau, and he couldn't come back to the altar to be a high priest. All right, but he stole it. He stole that power seat. He came to the king in the 150th year. Say that number again, 151. That was in 161 BC, all right? Presenting unto him a crown of gold and a song. So he was a song and a dance. Jake, man. He a song. He brought a song to him and sang it to him, and he gave him the fucking crown. Gave it to this Edomite. Sound like Jake in the industry today. The Lord say, you know, don't let no man take thy crown. And also of the bowls which were used solemnly in the temple, and so that day he held his peace. Howbeit, having gotten opportunity to further his foolish enterprise, and being called into counsel by Demetrius, talking about alchemist, this wicked Jake Levite he was selling out, he wanted to further his enterprise, and asked how the Jews stood affected and what they intended. He answered thereunto. So anytime Demetrius and Esau wanted to know what we was up to, how we were failing, and how did it affect us when they would attack, alchemist, this Levite sellout, he would go and tell them, like the news, you know, talebearer. Those of the Jews that be called, right, here to the point. So he was telling them this happened. Those of the Jews that be called Assidians or Hasidians or Hasidim, Hasayadim, or godly people, all right, mighty men, whose captain is Judas Maccabees. See, they joined up with the Hasmoneans, all right, Judas Maccabees. So the Hasidim joined up with Mattathias, and then their leader became Judas Maccabees. They nourish war and are seditious, all right, saying they fight against the powers that be. That's what they were doing. And will not let the realm be in peace, man. See, Greek Edomites, they wanted to rule and be in peace. But they can have no peace for the wicked. Therefore, I, being deprived of mine ancestors' honor, I mean the high priesthood, am now come hither. So this guy, alchemist, was snitching and lying because he wanted to be the high priest so damn bad. All right. So that's the understanding on the Hasidim, Hasidim, or the Assideans, which also meant the pious ones. Pious means to be devout, or like saints, you know, S-A-I-N-T, or godly persons or mighty men that just wanted nothing to do with these pagan customs, and so they wanted to stand up for what they believed in. So they joined up with the Hasmoneans through Mattathias and Judas Maccabees, and they fought side by side. We all fought side by side in the war against wickedness, against the Greeks. All right. So with that, I think I'm gonna end this one, man. I'll see you on the next one. Probably going to the Hellenistas. All right, shalom.